My parents let my sister keep my late grandfather's property, then demanded I pay for their retirement. I refused. I'm 32, male, and I've always been the kind of person who works hard for what I have. Growing up in a middle-class family, I watched my parents struggle to make ends meet, but they did their best to provide for my sister and me. I was always the more responsible one. From a young age, I understood the value of money and hard work, while my sister, Elle, seemed to have a different attitude towards life. She was always more carefree, dependent on others, and often took the easy way out. The family dynamic wasn't perfect, but I didn't think much of it until recently, when everything changed. About a year ago, my grandfather passed away. He was the patriarch of our family, and while we weren't close, I knew that his passing would shake things up. He had accumulated a considerable amount of property over his lifetime, including an old house in a quiet, historic part of town that had been in the family for generations. I knew this property would eventually be passed down to my sister and me, split between the two of us. But I wasn't expecting the drama that would follow. A few weeks after his funeral, my parents called me over to discuss the inheritance. They told me they had decided to give the house to Elle. My grandfather always told it will be divided between me and my sister. I was surprised but tried to keep my cool. "Why Elle?" I asked. "Well, she's the one who's really settled here," my father explained. "She's in the area, and we thought it would be better for her." I tried to reason with them. "It's supposed to be a split, though. It's only fair." But they weren't having it. "We've decided," my mother said firmly. "We think it's best." It wasn't the first time my sister had gotten the better end of things, but this felt different. It felt unfair, and frankly, it stung. But I let it go, swallowing my frustration. It wasn't worth a fight with my parents. I knew how they were. Once they'd made up their minds, there was no changing it. The months that followed were difficult. I had to watch as Elle moved into the house, making plans and renovating it. Every time I saw her, it was as though nothing had changed, as though the property had always been hers to take. I kept reminding myself that it didn't matter. There were other opportunities, and I would find a way to move forward. But things took a darker turn when my parents called me with another request a few months ago. "You've been doing well with your business, right?" my father asked casually over the phone. "Yeah, things are going well," I replied, wondering where this conversation was going. "Well," he began, "Elle and her husband are struggling financially. They've been having some issues with their business, and we were hoping you could help." I didn't know how to respond. "Help? How?" "They need a loan, and we thought maybe you could lend them some money, just until they get back on their feet." "Elle? Seriously?" I couldn't hide the shock in my voice. "I've worked hard for what I have. Why don't they take responsibility for their own issues?" My father sighed. "We're just asking for your help. It's family, son." The words stung. It wasn't the first time they had expected me to bail her out, but this was different. Now, it wasn't just about helping Elle. It was about expecting me to shoulder their financial burden, too. I was angry. I wanted to say no immediately, but I didn't know how to explain it without feeling like the bad guy. I'd worked so hard to build my business and secure my future, and now my parents were asking me to pay for Elle's mistakes. I couldn't understand why they never saw the pattern. Elle always managed to coast by on the back of others' hard work. But I wasn't just angry at Elle. I was angry at my parents for enabling her, for always finding ways to justify her actions while completely ignoring what I had built. "I can't do that," I said finally, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's not right, and I've got my own responsibilities to think about. You can't keep asking me to pay for her mistakes. You'll understand when you're older," my mother said, her tone flat. "You should be supporting your family." The conversation ended there, and I hung up the phone feeling like I was trapped. My parents expected me to act like the dutiful son, providing for my sister's needs, while they continued to turn a blind eye to her entitlement. It was the final straw. Something had to change. Then, just as I was trying to figure out how to approach this without tearing the family apart, I discovered something that took my anger to a whole new level. One evening, I found an email chain between my parents and Elle. I had no intention of snooping, but as I walked past my father's desk, something caught my eye. There, in plain sight, was an email discussing the property I had been denied. My sister had been planning to sell my late grandfather's property behind my back, all while asking for my help with her debts. The email revealed everything. Elle had been asking my parents for permission to sell the house and divide the profits. Not only had she taken my inheritance without telling me, but now she was trying to cash in on it without any regard for my share. My heart pounded as I read through the email, the betrayal sinking in deeper with every line. I stormed into my parents' living room, clutching my phone. "What is this?" I demanded, showing them the email on the screen. My mother looked away, unwilling to meet my gaze. We didn't think you needed the house." "You didn't think I needed the house? You gave it to her, and now she's trying to sell it." I was fuming, struggling to keep my voice low. "How could you do this?" "Son, it's just business," my father said, waving it off as if it was no big deal. "We thought it would help." "Help? How?" "You let her take my inheritance, and now she's trying to make a profit off of it while I'm left with nothing." The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust, and they had shattered it completely. I stood there, my chest heaving with anger, and I made a decision that would change everything. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't let them get away with this. If they thought I would continue to support Elle while they undermined me, they were gravely mistaken. "I'm done," I said quietly, my voice cold and determined. "I'm done with all of this." My father looked at me, stunned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm done being your backup plan," I replied. "Done helping you bail out Elle, and done letting you manipulate me into fixing everything." "I don't understand," my mother said, clearly caught off guard. "I've worked my entire life to get where I am, and you want me to give it all away to someone who doesn't care about the work I've put in?" I shook my head in disbelief. "You let her take the house, and now you're asking me to pay for her failures? You've crossed the line." They tried to explain, tried to justify their actions, but nothing could make me change my mind. As much as it pained me to say it, I realized that my relationship with them had changed irreparably. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about respect, and I had none left for them. I called Elle the next day to confront her directly. "What's going on with this house?" I asked, my voice steady but full of anger. "I'm trying to sell it," she replied nonchalantly. "It's for the best. You've never shown any interest in it." "That's not your decision to make," I snapped. "You took it from me without asking, and now you're trying to sell it behind my back. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Elle scoffed. "It's not like you've ever cared about the property. You've always been too busy with your business. I've cared about it my entire life." I shouted. "You think I don't see what's going on here? You've been manipulating Mom and Dad, and now you're trying to take everything. Not just the house, but everything." "Well, I'm done. I don't know what your problem is," she said, sounding defensive. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said, voice trembling with fury. "I'm not being dramatic. I'm done being your doormat." After the call, I made it clear to my parents that I would not support their decision to give the house to Elle, nor would I fund their retirement as they had asked. I was finished being the family's financial safety net, and I would not be part of any more of their schemes. The following week, I took legal action to prevent Elle from selling the property. I contacted a lawyer and filed for a temporary injunction, halting any sale until a formal agreement could be made. It was a long, drawn-out process, but I wasn't backing down. I wasn't going to let my parents and sister get away with what they had done. The legal proceedings were stressful, but they gave me a sense of control. After months of back and forth, I was able to get a court order that prevented the sale of the house, and eventually, I secured my rightful share. It was a bittersweet victory. Though I had won, it didn't change the fact that my family's trust had been broken beyond repair. But that didn't matter anymore. I wasn't going to be manipulated any longer. My parents were furious when they found out I had taken legal action. They saw it as an affront to the family, an attack on their authority. "You've ruined everything," my father shouted during one of our confrontations. "No," I said coldly, "you ruined it. By favoring Elle over me, by putting her ahead of what was rightfully mine, you've broken this family. I didn't back down. I refused to feel guilty for taking control of my life and my inheritance. Elle, too, was furious when she learned the sale had been blocked. She tried to convince me to back off, but I wasn't interested in her excuses anymore. I've had enough of your manipulation, I told her. You're not going to use me or anyone else to get what you want. In the months that followed, I kept my distance from my parents and Elle. I continued to grow my business and focused on my own life. While my parents seemed to come to terms with the reality of the situation, they never apologized. They never truly acknowledged what they had done to me. I realized that I didn't need their approval or validation anymore. I had proven that I could stand on my own, even if it meant severing ties with the people I once thought I could rely on. As for the property, I eventually sold my share and used the proceeds to expand my business. It felt like a victory, but also like a closing chapter on a family that never really understood me. A year later, I received an unexpected call from my mother. She sounded weary, apologetic even. I know things have been difficult between us, she began, and I wanted to let you know that we're sorry for how we treated you. I listened, but I didn't feel the same way anymore. I appreciate the apology, I said, but I've moved on. The conversation ended on a polite note, but I knew that nothing would change. What had happened couldn't be undone. I was no longer the person who had let family guilt keep him in line. I was my own person now, free from the weight of their expectations. In the end, I found peace in the decision I made. I had fought for what was mine, and I had come out stronger for it. The moral of the story? Don't let anyone take advantage of you, no matter who they are. Family doesn't get a free pass to treat you like a doormat, and it's okay to walk away when you need to. If you enjoyed my story of standing up for what's right and finding strength in the face of betrayal, don't forget to subscribe. Sometimes, the hardest battles are the ones we fight within our own families. But when you come out on the other side, you're stronger than you ever thought possible.